Zambia and the US share good diplomatic relationship. These are historical ties that have been established from the time Zambia gained independence. Today we speak to David Young, who is the US Charge d'Affaires to Zambia. We will look at various dimensions of the US-Zambia relations, from trade to economic affairs, as well as the support towards COVID-19 and various other areas of cooperation that exist between the two countries. It has been said that there are common and shared ideology between Zambia and the US, which is democracy.
Ninka star 360 hash, then you quickly look on my steps. Do below fast. Sign up today. Golden bills to pay. Send and receive your money. Natenga mobile money. Tunatenga pa phone. Songa ndefa kupoka load. Tenga mobile money. Mobile wallet account.
Tenga mobile money. Natufuno wina money.
Hello beula na tenga 10 if you file it and descending cash prize na majinga participate be kuchinga use 3 of any services party tenga stand a chance of winning cash prize in the buy
promotion ya wera tenga 10 injinga 100 pini pamoja mara.
Dial star 360 hash or download the Tenga mobile money app to participate in the Tenga 1010 promotion. Competition is open to new and existing Tenga mobile money customers. Terms and conditions apply.
Please join us as we speak to the US Charge d'Affaires. David, thanks so much, and it's a privilege for us at Zambian Business Times to host you as the US Charge d'Affaires to Zambia. To just begin our chat, I wanted to, check with you. I think from what we've seen, you came into the country about, I think that's March 2020, and we are now slightly over a year from the time that you came back. And from what I've also seen, this was sort of your second coming. You had been, the deputy chief, country chief. So how would you describe your first 1 year in this role?
Well, it's an interesting thing, as you mentioned, Donald, because I was here from 2013 to 2016. And for half that time, I had the same job that I have now. I was the charge d'affaires for the first 14 months and then a few months subsequently. So basically, I've kind of come back to my same job. And I must say that it's a real honor to be back as the acting chief of mission of the United States here in Zambia. This really is my second home. And I think I actually have spent more time in Zambia than any country than the United States in my life. His Excellency and HH and all people, it really is my second home. So I feel very special to be back here. My wife and I had a wonderful experience our first 3 years, and we love the people of this country. I love the fact that we, the United States, can do so much good working with our Zambian partners. We just announced a new $400 million, or actually about $450 million investment in the PEPFAR program for another year. And keep more than 1.1 million people alive through our AIDS work together. So it's a very, very powerful example of our great cooperation together. And it's just so impactful and meaningful. And, saving lives is kind of the ultimate that you can do in service in the world, whether from a faith perspective or a diplomatic or development perspective. It's when you can save a life, that's amazing. And I think the work we do together helps save many, many lives. So it's an honor to be here. Really, really an honor.
Fantastic, fantastic. And I think it's nice to have you as well, speaking as a Zambian. And maybe the second question, and I think this is something that generally people would ask. I think the time you came in, and I'll take you a little back, the time you came in, I think there was a public dispute with the former ambassador, Daniel Foot, with the Zambian government. I think there was so much that went down the drain. We wouldn't want to go there. But what I wanted to find out from you, now that you are 1 year in the role, how would you describe the relations between Zambia and the US as we stand today?
Well, I think it's, we went through a rough period before, there's no doubt. And I think it was an issue of miscommunications and, well, not miscommunications, very strong messages given back and forth. Those were honest messages, those were important messages, but it was a very difficult time in our relationship, there is no doubt. I have been honored to help rebuild the relationship. And we still have some disagreements on certain issues, but we also have many, many areas of cooperation. And I think you can do both. You can have honest conversations about tough issues and focus on the engagement that we do together in the positive sense. And I think that's where we are in our relationship right now. I basically think that the US-Zambia relationship is at really a high point in many ways, because our cooperation of saving lives, of working together, our robust levels of aid are fantastic. And that is as good as it's ever been. The work we've done in fighting COVID together, the work that we fight HIV, AIDS, tuberculosis, malaria, it's very impressive. We do a lot on education. Frankly, you work on business issues. We could have a more robust relationship on business and trade and commercial issues. We would like to see that in the future. But on the issues, on political dialogue, we have a very candid but very friendly dialogue. I think on political issues, we are both fellow democracies and longstanding democracies. We have a commitment to those same values. Both our countries, both the United States and Zambia, we have some challenges on the democratic front. The United States has been through a very, very rough period with our last election. Absolutely.
We all watched the spectacle.
Absolutely. And there is no doubt about that. So we have a lot of challenges at home on that front and have had, over the last year, and what happened on January 6th. So we're not claiming we're perfect. We're not, but Zambia's not perfect either, but we're good friends and we're democracies and we talk to each other. And I think there's a special bond between democratic nations and democratic peoples. And that's a very important thing the United States and Zambia have in common. And, the United States competes with a number of countries around the world. And believe, like Zambia, that the democratic path is the best way to go. Ultimately, democratic values, the fight against, for good governance, against corruption, for free markets, for personal freedoms, liberties, that's what it's really all about. And if you don't have those values affirmed, basically, you won't have as good a long-term success. And there's a competition in the world today. We know this, this, between an authoritarian model of governance and a democratic model of governance. And the United States and Zambia are united as democracies. And we can disagree on certain specific issues, but we are committed to a democratic vision and the democratic path. And that, to me, is so important. And as we see the presidential campaign season start this season, that's important to affirm, because our whole relationship is based on the foundation of being committed democracies that have the peaceful transfer of power at times between parties. And, we, for the United States, we do not take sides. So if PF wins, we're happy to keep working with PF. If UPND wins, we're happy to work with UPND. We do not take sides, and we are neutral. But what we support is democracy, and we support the right of the Zambian people to decide. And those are the fundamental principles of our democratic engagement.
Okay, fantastic. And I think the fact that the 450 million additional package was signed just goes to show in terms of the commitment to the relationship in the two countries. But then I wanted to move on to something I had thought of. And this is peculiar possibly to a role such as yours. I mean, the US is a mega economy in terms of GDP, in terms of, the scale of, trade and so on. And you work from Zambia, which relative in terms of GDP, it's comparable to some of the states within the United States. How do you then work your way around to be able to get the attention so that you can drive the agenda to cement the relations between Zambia and the US?
Well, you point out very accurately that, Zambia, with a population of 18 to 20 million people, is really, it's smaller than California, in terms of population. And, I think it's the size maybe of Texas or something more or less. But our bigger states have bigger economies than Zambia. That is totally true. I think our vision is that as democratic nations committed to free markets and the shared prosperity of our peoples, it's very important that we affirm that, promoting good governance, good economic governance, political governance, the fight against corruption, all those things are good for bilateral trade and investment, which can lift the boats of people and raise people out of poverty. We are very committed to that vision. We do have some disagreements and challenges. I think, looking with Zambia, Zambia wrestles, of course, with a very heavy debt load that has been piled on over recent years, and it's risen up and up and up. We all know that, in the discussions with the IMF, trying to get on a sustainable path to debt repayment and engagement is a really key point for our engagement. It's a really key point for Zambia to move forward economically. So I think those kind of things, have a big impact on how many US companies want to come and how the engagement of the free market and the business sector moves forward.
If we can move on a little bit to the COVID-19, I think you came in at the time when COVID-19 was raging, and it's ravaged economies, I think, across Africa, in Zambia, and indeed across the world. So in this specific space, in terms of support for COVID-19 to Zambia, you mentioned earlier to say you've done, is it 20 million? Are you able to give us a little bit more of the full package of what you've done as the US?
In the area of the fight against COVID-19, it's another example of our extensive cooperative work together. The United States is the biggest contributor to Zambia in the fight against COVID-19 through a variety of different means. And not only money, of 25 some million dollars, I don't know the exact figure off the top of my head, but there have been new funding that's been approved by the American Rescue Plan that just got passed in the United States Congress and signed by President Biden. There's a new focus on supporting multilateral engagement through COVAX, the international vaccine, Gavi, the Vaccine Alliance internationally. Zambia is going to get more funding through that multilateral mechanism that the United States has put in. So we give it to the international system, but then it comes to Zambia. So it's our money coming through a multilateral engagement of Gavi and COVAX. We've been supporting and working to support the provision of through the multilateral engagement of vaccines, that have come. We're looking to do more in that area as we can. We provide a lot of technical assistance. Our Centers for Disease Control and Prevention USAID, the Agency for International Development, work extremely closely with now the former Minister of Health, the Permanent Secretary, Kennedy Malama, ZNPHI, all the key health institutions. We're preferred partners. We're just in step together in the work. We meet every week, multiple times at all levels to coordinate strategies. So we're in the same way that we're key partners in PEPFAR, we're key partners in the fight against COVID. I mean, this is a shared recognition that, transnational threats like global health challenges, no one is an island entire of himself. We're all part of the main, as the great poet said, so we're connected in these transnational challenges, and we have to work together across borders, because what happens in South Africa comes to America. What happens in South Africa comes to Zambia. A variant in India comes to Zambia. A variant in India comes to the United States. We have to work together if we're going to beat COVID-19, the pandemic around the world. We've made a lot of progress under President Biden in the United States, getting vaccines out to well over 100 million of our people are fully vaccinated now. We've made tremendous progress. The death rates, the incidence is going down in the United States. I think the Biden administration, it's one of their great achievements already just in a few months of helping us turn the corner in the fight against COVID in the United States. But, we look at the situation globally, the situation in India and South Asia is so terrible. And South America, it's very difficult. So, and South Africa is challenging. It's one of the things we need to see is that we have to remain united and work together. I'll just tell you that there is a very strong likelihood that a third wave of COVID will come to Zambia as it's coming to South Africa and other countries in Africa. And one of the biggest challenges is this COVID-19 wave, the third wave, is likely to include this Indian variant, that's spreading so fast in India. That makes it very, very difficult. And this third wave could be even more difficult than the second wave back in January, February. So we have to keep our vigilance high. People have to wear masks. People have to practice social distancing to save lives. I mean, we all know, and we lost loved ones and friends and colleagues, family members in January and February, right? That we're not this here in Zambia. We are going to have to work really hard, and we're working hard with the Ministry of Health to combat it. But this is the coming challenge in these coming months as it gets colder. The third wave, it's going to come to Zambia.
We definitely hope we can be prepared so that we can minimize any negative impact that may come from there. Mr. Young, I wanted now to move to trade and development. So in terms of trade, I know that, I looked at the statistics from your representative office for trade. It shows that Zambia and the US total trade was about $182 million. That's 2019. But then when I went to check the other frontier African countries, I'm talking of, countries such as Ghana, countries such as Kenya, you're doing billions. I think Ghana is 1.8 billion, Kenya is 1.1 billion, and so on. Part of a way for the US and Zambia to have significant relations is to sort of put through this economic integration. And I do know that, yes, the health system has benefited greatly through PEPFAR. But then what can we do, or what challenges have been there for Zambia and the US to establish at least $1 billion worth of business? Because one of the reasons why I say this is sometimes I look at the Zambia's debt, right? In absolute terms, it looks big because we are looking at it in relative terms to say Zambia's size of the economy and the debt. But if you look at the population and you look at the debt itself, you see that the economy actually needs to grow to be able to accommodate much more infrastructure. Zambia is a well-spread country and so on. And as a Business Times, we actually think that this is one area that, needs so much effort between the two countries. What has been some of the challenges, and what can the two countries do in order to grow this share at least to $1 billion?
I think I would agree with you that is a very noble and important goal that we at the U.S. Embassy and the U.S. government would share. It would be wonderful to get our bilateral trade to $1 billion. I think that would be fantastic. Now, Zambia, of course, has 18, 20 million people. Kenya has a lot more. So, or Nigeria, South Africa. So we have to recognize that, of course. But it's not as big of an economy as Kenya, for example. But, I must say that one of the things in terms of, as you know, with the Business Times, that private sector decision makers make their decisions based on the economic environment and business opportunities. And so the biggest factor that needs to change is for Zambia itself to make some changes so that its welcoming business environment is better for US companies. That's the bottom line. And that's true for European countries, Latin American, Middle Eastern countries, East Asian countries. Most private sector companies are going to go where the opportunities are. And they're going to go where the operating business environment is good. We have to be honest on this. And I say this as a good friend of Zambia, as I've described. The business environment has some work to do here. The heavy indebtedness, the difficulties in doing business sometimes, some of the lack of transparency, some of those challenges, because of the indebtedness, the impacts on human development investments in the economy, that's very, very difficult. And, I think that US companies will go where the opportunities are. Now, there's a number of really good companies that are building bridges and working on, commercial products and involved in the insurance sector and other things. So there's different US companies that are engaged, and there's other interests. We work with US companies to help raise awareness and promote those opportunities. And we're all in. We're totally agreeing with you. We've spent a lot of time past year, focused engaging with the Ministry of Finance and others in senior level state, as Zambia works with the IMF, on an agreement, and there's been a lot of progress made, but ultimately, probably after the election, I'm guessing, hopefully whoever wins, whichever side wins, there probably is a need to move forward with the IMF. And I think that's been kind of teed up. But, the bottom line is US companies will come when the opportunities are there. Now we have AGOA, and there are opportunities with AGOA that companies should take advantage of. But again, it really comes down to making attractive opportunities to companies. And we in the US government, US Embassy, we can't go to a private sector company and say, hey, you have to come here, even though it's a difficult environment. Some other countries, some of our competitors have state-led growth, state-led companies. And so, but we have a different model, so, we have to recognize that.
Okay. Last question is, now this is relative, and I think it's also touching on what you've just spoken about. If you look at foreign direct investments and developing countries across Africa, I'll take for instance Zambia itself. There is this infrastructure gap that needs to be financed. You have spent some time in Zambia to get from one point to another, and so on and so forth. So there is some infrastructure, transport, airports, and so on and so forth. And some of this infrastructure needs to be put down. So it's a chicken and egg question, which one should come first? But we all know at the end of the day that the infrastructure is needed. And then there's this competition, which is coming from the Far East. And I won't stay away. I also mentioned, the second largest economy following the US, which is China, seems to be offering these packages. What role do you see the US playing, especially that there are these, democratic shared values? Do you see the US playing in coming to offer alternatives? Because sometimes, yes, there's this view that, the deals may be moving one way and one way, but maybe it is because that's the only way that is currently on the table. And I can speak from a business perspective in that you need to open up the options. And most countries are looking to developed countries and are looking to the US to be able to offer some of these infrastructure funding. What's role can the US play in that space?
That's a good point. I think that, there are a couple new US entities and opportunities that have just been developed in the last 2 years. One is the DFC, the Development Finance Corporation. The other is the initiative, which is an interagency US government called Prosper Africa. And those are efforts that really, especially through DFC, to help finance and help provide financing for companies and deals that are interested to be done in Zambia, throughout Africa, and around the world. So DFC, if you want to check that out, Donald, is a really great, you can find some great information about them online, or our embassy can follow up and give you some great information. But so that's a really key development on our front that is really, really cool. There's interest from the Biden administration to expand. You probably are aware from the debates in the United States that the big bill that President Biden's pushing is an infrastructure in the United States. So there's a real in getting companies involved both at home in the United States to improve our decaying infrastructure and the need to move towards expanding our IT infrastructure and others, but we're interested. But again, there has to be the enabling conditions in country to make that possible. But you will see a lot of engagement and interest going forward in this space. We're very interested. And I think, again, as Zambia deals with some of these economic challenges, I think there will be even expanded commercial engagement.
But quickly, there's 12 August elections which are coming up. And we know that you're working with CCMG. We also wanted to find out, as media institutions, because we understand CCMG also does election monitoring and so on, how can we as media institutions plug in? And specifically, I'll speak about Zambia Business Times, because we wanted to have a situation whereby we can plug in and also be able to report some of the results as and when they are coming through, because we've seen year in, year out, every 5 years election and some of the by-elections that have happened, there's always an information gap. And we're looking forward to partnering with an institution that has got monitors in the different places so that, a parallel voter system can be established, which I believe is established, but can also be reported in real time. That will give that impetus to be able to to push out some of the information gaps that really exist and sometimes lead to lack of belief in the electoral system because of the same time delay, people pushing different results and so on. What's your take on that?
Sure. Well, and thanks for this last question, Donald. The thing that I would say is that the official results of the election have to be announced by the ECZ, the Electoral Commission of Zambia. And parallel vote tabulation, exercise like that from monitors like CCMG, they're not going to compete with public announcements about the election results. All of them are going to defer and respect the right of ECZ, their constitutional responsibility. We won't compete with that. I think that the value of a parallel vote tabulation, as we've seen in the past, is to help increase public confidence in the results that are announced, that come out. But the sequencing needs to be that ECZ always announces first, and then CCMG can issue a report afterwards. So I think given what a parallel vote tabulation is and the role of domestic and international monitors, and you will see this with the US Embassy observation, the EU observation mission, others like that, it will always be after the ECZ reports results. So I think your point about media here need to have freedom to move around. They need to have robust freedom to report on campaigns and elections. We defend that right very strongly. and talk about it publicly and privately. So that's very important. But we wouldn't want to get, I think, a private, citizen monitors to start publicizing their results before ECZ does. That's basically where we'd come out, I think. So.
Okay.
Thank you,
right,
Donald.
well,
Look forward to chatting in the future. Great to see you.
There you have it. I hope you enjoyed our interview. We'd like to urge you to follow our Facebook page, LinkedIn, as well as other social media handles. Thank you.